All right, today we're doing something a little different. We're going to put on our anthropologist hats and dig into the code that shapes our world. But we're not looking at it as engineers. No, we're explorers, and we're searching for something much, much older, something deeply human, the sacred. So let's start digging.
You know, we tend to see our phones and laptops as just tools. They're functional, they're cold, they're lifeless. But what if we've got it all wrong? What if, in this vast digital emptiness, we're actually unconsciously rebuilding the most ancient human patterns of belief, of ritual, even of magic?
So where do we even begin an excavation like this? Well, how about with the very first thing we do every day? We're going to sift through our daily habits, but not as mere routines. We're going to look at them as rituals. These powerful, repeated acts that give our digital lives a hidden structure and meaning.
I mean, think about it. The very first thing you do when you wake up, you reach for your phone. But you can't just get in. First, you have to perform a little ceremony. You trace a specific pattern, you offer your thumbprint, or you present your face for a scan. It's a rite of passage, isn't it? An act of authentication that grants you entry into the digital world for the day. You are proving you are you.
And it goes even deeper. When you say, "Hey Siri" or "Okay Google," you're not just giving a command. You're speaking a magic phrase, an incantation that awakens this invisible entity to serve your will. It's a totally modern form of invocation, like calling on an ancient oracle to give you knowledge or carry out a task for you.
And this is where it gets really interesting. Ancient cultures had all kinds of artifacts, little statues, special stones, oracle bones that they would consult for answers and guidance. So how different is that really from us asking our smart speakers about the weather or the news? In both cases, we're placing our trust in a physical object, giving it a certain kind of power over our lives. Okay, so if we're performing all these rituals, we must be protecting something important. And in this digital world, the most precious thing we have is information. And believe it or not, the tools we're using to guard it look a lot like the magical objects from the ancient world.
This brings us to this really cool idea called ritual cryptography. Now, we're not talking about complicated math here. We're talking about a set of practices designed to protect the very lifeblood of our digital selves. By making information secret, by securing it, we are making it sacred. And that is how we build trust in a world where you can't see anyone.
For example, think of an ancient talisman, a physical charm somebody wore to ward off evil spirits. Well, your private encryption key is the exact modern equivalent. It's this unique string of code, yours and only yours, a digital talisman that guards your deepest secrets from all those unseen forces out there on the web.
And your password, it's doing the same kind of work. It's not just some random string of characters. It's your personal magical seal. It's like a king pressing his signet ring into hot wax to seal a letter. You use your password to secure your private digital spaces, making sure that only you have the power to break that seal.
And what about who we are online? You know, in many ancient travel ceremonies, people wore intricate masks to channel a spirit or become an ancestor. Well, our avatars, our profile pictures, those are our ritual masks. They let us put on a new face to perform a different version of ourselves in the giant communal theater of the internet.
Okay, so let's zoom out for a second. We've talked about our personal rituals, but what about the giant structure that connects all of us? Because it turns out this whole web of trust we've built, well, it has a pretty stunning parallel in the natural world. This is just fascinating. Biologists have found these huge, hidden networks of fungi underground that connect the roots of nearly every tree in a forest. And through this wood-wide web, trees can share nutrients, they can send warnings about danger, they basically support each other. Our digital networks, built on these rules of trust and exchange, are an unconscious technological echo of that very same ancient living system.
So how do we keep trust across a huge, invisible network like that? Well, just look at the blockchain. We think of it as super complex technology, but if you look at it like an anthropologist, it's just a simple tribal ritual. First, someone makes an offering. That's the transaction. Then, the entire tribe, the whole network, has to witness and agree that the offering is valid. That's consensus. Finally, the memory is carved into the tribe's collective story, the immutable chain, so it can never be forgotten. It's a ritual for creating truth together.
But here's the catch. Here's the deep tension in all of this. Our code works at the speed of light. It demands instant trust. But that natural web of trust, the forest network, that stuff grows over decades, centuries, slowly, organically. We are trying to build something ancient and slow, trust, with tools that are modern
and impossibly fast.
Which brings us to our final and maybe our most provocative question. If our technology is so full of rituals and talismans and these webs of sacred trust, could it be that we're watching the birth of a new kind of spirituality? Are we finding something divine inside the machine?
Seriously, think about it. When your system glitches out, is a bug just an error, or could you see it as a kind of omen, a message from the machine that you don't quite understand? Is computer code, with its strict rules and hidden power, kind of like a lost ancient language? Are software updates just technical fixes, or are they more like cyclical rites of purification? And what about our data, stored on these far-off servers we'll never see? Aren't those our modern holy sites, places we make digital pilgrimages to every day?
You know, one day, future archaeologists are going to be digging up the remnants of our civilization. And they're not going to find clay pots or stone tablets. They are going to find our dead smartphones, our fossilized servers, our fragments of code. These will be our relics, these sacred objects they studied to figure out what we believed in, what we valued, and who our gods were.
So I'll leave you with this one last thought. We always talk about learning to code as this practical, job-oriented skill. But what if it's something more? What if learning to write and understand code is actually our generation's great initiatory journey? A difficult path we have to walk to try and find and maybe even create something sacred in the vast, empty space of this new digital universe.